With all the craziness in Capitol Hill and in the media surrounding the conspiracy theory that our president Donald Trump is, or at least was, somehow colluding with the Russian government to help win the election because he was somehow a candidate that would have been favorable to Vladimir Putin. With that massive conspiracy theory being pushed out there every single day and shoved down your throat on a daily basis, you'd almost forget that we are actually sliding closer and closer to war with Russia in the real world, not Democrat conspiracy land. Of course, you had the strike at the airbase in Syria, the Al-Sharat airbase, where supposedly there was a plane sent from that base that dropped chemical bombs, supposedly on innocent civilians. Now there is some skepticism, to say the least, around what exactly happened at that event. But in any case, the base, it does seem, did potentially have some chemical weapons, which it more than likely was not supposed to have. The base was destroyed, and Russia was not too terribly happy about it. They responded by sending some warships close to ours, basically saying that they would intercept additional missiles if they were fired, Tomahawk missiles if they were fired from the original battleships. And of course, just the whole conspiracy theory, the Russian conspiracy theory about President Trump colluding with Russia, I think has sort of forced President Trump's hand to not actually meet with President Putin because of all the different allegations that would arise because of that. So they haven't been able to have a direct communication and actually figure out some solutions to some of the difficulties in terms of sort of coming to better terms with Russia. And just recently, we had another example of growing tensions with Russia. And again, as all this is happening, the media doesn't really report on this too much. They're too busy talking about how, with zero evidence, President Trump is supposedly colluding with the Russians, which again proves to be completely ridiculous. The allegations are completely baseless. There is no evidence whatsoever, but that's the top story while we slide closer and closer to World War III. So this is from The Independent. Russia to treat U.S. jets in Syria as, quote, targets after America guns down first regime warplane. Russia has said it will treat U.S. warplanes operating in parts of Syria where its air forces are also present as, quote, targets amid a diplomatic row caused by the downing of a Syrian jet. The country's defense ministry said it would track U.S.-led coalition aircraft with missile systems and military aircraft, but stopped short of saying it would shoot them down. A hotline set up between Russia and the U.S. to prevent mid-air collisions will also be suspended. Quote, all kinds of airborne vehicles, including aircraft and UAVs of the international coalition detected to the west of the Euphrates River, will be tracked by the Russian SAM systems as air targets, the Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement. The warning comes after a U.S. F-18 Super Hornet shot down a Syrian Su-22 jet on Sunday in the countryside southwest of Raqqa. The first such downing of a Syrian jet by the U.S. since the start of the country's civil war in 2011. And Raqqa, I believe, is basically the ISIS stronghold right now. And the United States has allied with the, I believe it is the Free Syrian Army, the FSA, the quote-unquote supposed moderate rebels, and the Kurds to basically fight ISIS, supposedly, quote-unquote. But while they're fighting ISIS, who's sort of supposed to be like an independent sort of player in the region, while fighting ISIS, there's also a civil war going on between the Kurds, the Free Syrian Army, and Bashar al-Assad's regime, the actual still officially recognized regime in Syria, and his government forces. So there's this whole battle, going on, this whole civil war, and you've got all these different factions, and oftentimes, at least it has been the case many times in the past, many of the quote-unquote moderate rebels that we actually arm and fund and train in many cases wind up either themselves basically diverting to ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Al-Nusra, or they wind up supplying them with weapons or supplies of some sort. And it's a problem. It continues to be a problem. And sometimes the lines can definitely be blurred between who is the enemy and who isn't. Definitely, when you've got all these different factions and this giant proxy war going on, it's definitely a complex situation. But we actually shot down a Syrian jet that bombed supposedly Kurdish forces. The Russians say that it was ISIS that the Syrians tried to bomb, but the United States is saying that it was actually Kurdish forces. So there's a lot of debate going on right now as to, what exactly happened. So, no one's really sure. It's basically down to who do you believe, the United States government or the Russian government? So not two very reliable sources of information right there, to say the least. Washington said the jet had dropped bombs near the U.S.-backed forces, but Damascus said the plane was downed while flying a mission against ISIS militants. Russia's defense ministry said the suspension of its communication line with the Americans would begin immediately. The U.S. did not use its hotline with Russia ahead of the downing of the Syrian government warplane, said the ministry, which accused the U.S. of a, quote, deliberate failure to make good on its commitments under the deconfliction deal. Quote, the shooting down of a Syrian Air Force jet in Syria's airspace is a cynical violation of Syria's sovereignty, the ministry said. Quote, the U.S. Repeated combat operations under the guise of, quote, combating terrorism against the legitimate armed forces of a UN member country are a flagrant violation of international law and an actual military aggression against the Syrian Arab Republic. Theresa May appealed to Russia to continue the use of deconfliction measures over the skies of Syria to reduce the risk of misunderstandings in what is a crowded airspace. Downing the jet was akin to, quote, helping the terrorists that the U.S. is fighting against. Sergei Rabkov, perhaps, or something like that. I may have butchered that. My bad if so. Russia's deputy foreign minister said. A statement released by U.S. Central Command on Sunday said the Syrian jet was, quote, immediately shot down in accordance with rules of engagement and in collective self-defense of coalition-partnered forces. Quote, the coalition's mission is to defeat ISIS in Iraq and Syria. The coalition does not seek to fight Syrian regime, Russian, or pro-regime forces partnered with them, but will not hesitate to defend coalition or partner forces from any threat, it added. The coalition presence in Syria addresses the imminent threat ISIS in Syria poses globally. The demonstrated hostile intent and actions of pro-regime forces toward coalition and partner forces in Syria conducting legitimate counter-ISIS operations will not be tolerated. So there you go. You pretty much got the United States government, U.S. Central Command, saying, "Look, you bombed, coalition forces, U.S.-backed forces. So the Kurds or the FSA." And of course, Russia's saying that they actually bombed ISIS. So who knows who they really were? Again, the lines get blurred. We have basically, through funding as a proxy army, the moderate rebels, quote unquote, have funded, manpower and weapons and supplies directly, to ISIS. So we have actually helped to grow ISIS, helped ISIS to expand, even as the Syrian civil war is going on. Of course, the award-winning journalist Seymour Hersh detailed how Hillary Clinton actually funneled weapons from Libya into Turkey, and how those weapons wound up getting into the hands of ISIS. And of course, Libya, everyone knows how that turned out. We came, we saw, he died, ha 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 ha, is the famous quote from Hillary Clinton, as they, toppled the Gaddafi regime and turned Libya into a living hell. So that was one of her greatest accomplishments. And one of the biggest problems here is that Syrian jet could have very easily been a Russian jet. And if that was the case, I don't think I need to explain to anybody that would have been a bad thing. So obviously now you've got Russia saying that they are basically going to treat all objects in the Syrian airspace as foreign objects and target them with their surface-to-air missile systems, and they said everything short of "we're going to shoot your planes down," basically. So obviously tensions are very high right now. President Trump has, of course, given his military command free rein, basically, whereas President Obama used to have a very tight grip on basically all military action. Trump has basically let the military loose in a sense, and said that figures they know what to do, and is going to let them do their job. That of course, is a double-edged sword, obviously. So you've got obviously some serious tensions going on. No one knows what really happened, who really was bombed, if it was the coalition forces or ISIS. Who really knows? Of course, we do know there are certain people in Trump's administration, like H.R. McMaster, his national security advisor, who, as has been shown, has been reported, that he actually wants to do a full-scale invasion of Damascus, and actually wants to push for a full-on regime change there, which, of course, Trump has opposed. So, you got to watch out with the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower warned about. And that brings me to Fox News. Armed Russian jet comes within 5 feet of U.S. recon jet. An armed Russian fighter jet buzzed a U.S. Air Force reconnaissance aircraft in the Baltic Sea on Monday, U.S. officials told Fox News. The Russian Su-27 jet had air-to-air missiles under its wings and approached the U.S. Air Force RC-135 recon jet, quote, rapidly, coming within 5 feet of the American aircraft, the officials said. Once alongside, the Russian jet was, quote, provocative in its flight maneuvers and flying, quote, erratically, according to another official. Since June 2nd, there have been more than 35 interactions in the Baltic Sea region between U.S. and Russian jets and warships, but the incident Monday morning is notable because U.S. military considered it, quote, unsafe, according to one official. For the past few weeks, the U.S. military has participated in a large military training exercise in the Baltic region, including the use of B-52 nuclear-capable bombers and the long-range B-1 bomber. Dozens of U.S. and Allied warships also participated in the Baltic Sea exercise amid heightened tensions with Russia. The, quote, Baltops exercise concluded over the weekend. It was not immediately clear how close the U.S. military recon jet was flying near Kaliningrad, a Russian enclave between NATO allies Poland and Lithuania. This fall, Russia moved nuclear-capable ballistic missiles to Kaliningrad, putting some European capitals in strike range. The U.S. Air Force did not immediately respond to requests for comment. And that's, of course, why people like John McCain want to constantly expand NATO into tiny little nations like Montenegro, which happened just recently, because he wants there to be this geopolitical situation where if a conflict starts in a tiny little nation like Montenegro, that now the United States, can intervene, which is something that he would like very much, because there isn't a war that John McCain didn't like, basically. So obviously, just another example of rising tensions, of course, with the United States and Russia, the United States military and the Russian military, and certainly. Syria could be the catalyst into World War III. And I remember candidate Trump, when he was running, said that if Hillary Clinton won, that we would get into World War III over Syria. So please, President Trump, let cooler heads prevail. Make sure you are very careful with what you do. Because I know you've got a lot of neocons around you in the establishment that would like to push the United States closer to war with Russia, and be wary of claims like this one coming out that this Syrian jet bombed coalition forces. I mean, obviously, you've got the best intel of anybody. If that's what happened, that's what happened. And obviously, you got to respond accordingly. But certainly, I don't think anyone wants to go to World War III over Syria. I think, obviously, we need to focus on getting rid of ISIS in Syria. We need to focus on getting rid of ISIS all around the globe, quite frankly. But we can work with Russia, we can work with Syria to get rid of ISIS, and then I say we get the hell out of there. Creating this situation where there is, now a hair trigger that could bring us into World War III over Syria is just insane, quite frankly. So again, hopefully cooler heads prevail on this situation, and hopefully we don't slide closer to World War III, because that'd be cool. All right, so if you like this video, please subscribe and leave a comment. I'll have the audio version of this uploaded on SoundCloud, and you can follow me on Twitter and like me on Facebook. And I will have the links for all that in the description. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and may the force be with you.